to see you guys here as well. And to everyone here, you know, this election is a bit strange. I mean, let's be honest about it. It's a strange sort of feeling around the country. But I tell you what I think about it. The Tories are going to try and make big inroads into Labour support because of the Brexit issue. But one thing we should never forget in communities like this is what the Conservatives do every time they get power to communities like this and to the working people of the country. They never stand up for them. They never did, they never have, and they never will. And so one of the problems with Boris Johnson, actually there are quite a few problems with Boris Johnson, let me correct myself there. One of the problems is when he says that he's going to spend all this money after 10 years of austerity, suddenly austerity's gone out of fashion, he wants to spend money. You can believe that no more than you can believe the rest of the promises he makes. Because I know what happened when we were in government. When we introduced the minimum wage, they opposed it, right? They may talk now as if it's always been part of their philosophy. It never was. When we were introducing changes in the law that made people more equal in our society, we were fighting against a legacy of Conservative governments over many, many years. And when we came to office, we put that major boost into the health service and education. We did it after years again of when the Conservatives have been underinvesting in the public realm. So we know what they do from their record. And therefore, what I say to any person in this election who thinks it might be wise to switch from Labour to Tory, remember what the Tories do to communities like this. Never put them in charge of the country if you can help it. Never. Because every time they're in charge, we know what they do. And when they go and they say, well, if you vote for them, you're going to get Brexit done. And I understand, by the way, people want to wait for the Brexit nightmare. I mean, who is not fed up of Brexit? Everyone is fed up of Brexit. Right? But the question is what you do about it. And when they say, if you vote Conservative on the 12th of December, that's an end of it. It's not an end of it. Next year, there's the big Brexit negotiation. You remember the Irish negotiation, which took years? Okay, this one is an even tougher negotiation. And it could result in a Brexit without a deal at all. Which will, by the way, not really do damage to our economy in general, but will mean that we have much less money to spend on the services that people want. So again, when Boris Johnson says to you, with a straight face, vote Tory on the 12th of December and Brexit ends, it doesn't. We just go to the next chapter of it. So there's no resolution of it. And the resolution many of those Conservative MPs want is a no-deal Brexit. Some of them actually want it. And look at the situation we got with the Conservative Party now. You've got the person who was Chancellor of the Exchequer a few months ago, and wasn't exactly a left-wing Tory even, right? Philip Hammond, he's now expelled from the Tory party. So every single candidate in the Tory party is signed up to take whatever they do on Brexit, including the harshest form of it, which is the no-deal Brexit. And if that happens, you've got a group of people who are perfectly capable next year, when they can't get the deal because they'll never get it on the terms they're arguing for it at the moment, because what they're trying to say is, we want access to the European markets. The Europeans will say, fine, you can have access to markets. But just like they said in relation to Northern Ireland, they'll say you have to keep to the rules. And these guys are going to say, we don't want to keep to the rules, we want to diverge from them, in which case they'll say you won't have access. And we've got to conclude this deal by the 1st of July, by the way, otherwise we're going to call for an extension. So there's no way this is actually going to happen. We're going to be back next year in the same deadlock with the same problems, but now we will have left and therefore have no way out of the difficulties we're in. So this is why this election really does matter. It may be weird, it is weird, but it matters. And by the way, the thing about these Brexit people is, you understand something, they are the ones who are passionately in favour of a no-deal Brexit. Unfortunately, they're also very right-wing on other issues too. So this is what we're faced with. We're faced with the possibility of not merely not resolving Brexit, but having a Conservative Party that is much more right-wing than the present group of Conservatives in Parliament. And when you look at who's replacing those people standing down, by the way, they're increasingly right-wing. So this is the situation we're in, and that's why I say to people, it's important, this election, to make sure that you don't end up with a Tory government with a huge majority that's not merely doing damage on Brexit, but is doing damage to the rest of the country on the issues that we really care about. So when we're talking about the health service or education or any of the things, or lifting people out of poverty or reducing inequality, people have got to ask a very basic question. What about the Conservatives and their record makes you think that they're the ones who are going to do this? This is why we need people like Pat in Parliament. We need them because in the end, they're people who will stand up for what's right, who will stand up for working people in this country, who will try and do their best for people, who acknowledge all the difficulties and the challenges we have. But one of the things we learned in government, and sometimes we have a tendency in the Labour Party to think that it's a choice between principles and power. But I've always said to people, if you don't have the self-discipline to win power, your principles are just words. And words never lifted anyone out of poverty. So if you're actually interested in making a difference to people's lives, you've got to be in power to do it. And when you are in power, what you realise is, yes, you've got the big things that you do, but you also realise that every single day that you're in government, decisions come across your desk, small decisions, seemingly small. I was just earlier this week with the person who used to be the woman in charge of dealing with those people who are homeless on the streets. Remember Louise Casey? Yeah. And we were just reflecting back on how we cut dramatically the number of homeless people sleeping on the streets. And how it's all risen again now. But we did it. It wasn't huge decisions that were being taken, and most of it never got much publicity. But what you realise when you're in government is the values of the people in government, the values of the party in government matter. Because every day you're taking decisions where our values drive us one way and their values drive us another. And this is why it's important. This is why it's so important we liberate ourselves from what has been now almost a decade of Conservative government and austerity. So this is what is at stake. And I hope everyone here does their very best to make sure that Pat and our local good people are returned to Parliament. This is what's your fifth?
My fifth, yeah.
Your fifth time. So it's true, you do know, and as you were indicating earlier, he is someone who's genuinely worth supporting. But this election, all elections matter. But there are very few elections that you have where you can genuinely say the country's at a crossroads, at a turning point. And I don't want to see Boris Johnson back in Downing Street. I don't want to see the Tories with a majority. I don't want to be in a position where all the things that we need to do and want to do for the people we represent can't be done. So this is why it's important. And, it's one of the other things I learned in the time I was leader of the Labour Party when we were fighting those elections, is that it's never obvious and it's never easy. And right now, for all sorts of reasons, it can be quite difficult. But it's necessary. And those of you who are going out and doing that work, you're doing it because you believe in a cause. Right? We're not part of a tribe, we're part of a cause. And that cause and that mission is to create a more just society. And the reason the Labour Party was created all those years ago was because in the end people realised they needed a vehicle that was able not just to achieve representation in Parliament, but eventually to achieve government, so that in governing we could change the country. And in our 100 years of history, Pat's right. We've lost too many times, we've won too few. But we've always had the same mission. That mission's never been more important than now. So when we go out there, we're going out there with all that history behind us. And we look back and we think of all the times when things looked as if they couldn't be changed, and they were changed. And we think of the things that we achieved and created, the milestones of achievement of Labour governments of the past. And we realise that those things would never have happened unless there'd been not just people like me as a Prime Minister or Pat as a Member of Parliament, people like you, people who are prepared, even when it's difficult, to go out and to fight for what you believe in. So this is what's at stake. So I hope very much that you get out there and be strong and have good courage and good heart, because the cause is still right. Whatever the difficulties, the cause is right, the mission is necessary, and you've got a great standard bearer in Pat McFadden. So December the 12th, vote Labour. I'll be voting Labour. We want him in. We want to see people like Pat back in Parliament, and then we can begin, I hope, the process of putting our country right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony, and you're right to remind us that although the Conservative Party may have their sights on seats in places like the West Midlands, people here have long memories, and they remember the industrial devastation that the Tories presided over in Wolverhampton and the Black Country a few decades ago. But you don't even have to have that long a memory, because even in the last 9 years, we've lost 2,000 police officers from our streets outside just in the West Midlands police force. We've got record waiting lists in the NHS. We've lost over £200 million from the budget of this city. And now they're proposing to take away the free TV licence from 3,500 households in this constituency alone. So you don't need to look back decades, you just need to look in the rearview mirror to know what a Tory majority would be like. And it wouldn't just be for Christmas, it would be for 5 long years. So I am hugely grateful to you, Tony, for coming to us today, for reminding us of the power of change that is there in a Labour government, and for supporting our campaign here in Wolverhampton South East. And I'd like everybody to give Tony another round of applause.